Okay, so Priya, the market's currently pricing in a 62% chance that May's inflation print is going to be, 3.9 or higher, right? But then every headline this morning is calling it the start of easing. It's just wild, isn't it? Oh, totally, right? It's it's just totally different stories being told. And it's just so stark, Amara. You see it absolutely everywhere, and it's just bizarre, really. And 2 weeks ago, the FUMP held rates 8-4. That's the most divided vote we've seen since October 1992. And Powell, he's stepping down his chair this month, but he's keeping his governor's seat as almost a hostage, against this renovations investigation. It's very precise, but also very quiet, wouldn't you say? Survey expectations, they dropped from 4.7 to 4.5, but then the Cleveland Fed's daily nowcast, it says May CPI lands at 3.89, with a second quarter pace annualizing at 5.78. So we've got these two pricing systems, same data, 22 points apart, Priya. Resolution in 32 days. What do you even make of that whole situation? Oh, Amara, that gap, it doesn't exist by accident, right? It just absolutely doesn't. The contracts, they have to be honest, because the people writing them, they're pricing skin in the game. They lose money, if they hedge into comfort. But the headlines, they have to be reassuring. They're pricing audience retention. They lose readers if they sound the alarm. So that 22-point gap on the same data isn't confusion at all. It's two different optimization functions producing two different outputs, really. One is optimizing for accuracy, and the other, my friend, is optimizing for comfort. And right now, those two functions are further apart than I've seen them in 3 years.
Wow, 3 years, Priya. That's really something. And all these phenomena, they're just stacking up in a way that's so hard to read as just a coincidence, We've got the most divided FOMC vote since 1992. Powell, he's stepping aside as chair, but he's refusing to give up his governor's seat. Then you have Hammack, Keshkari, Logan dissenting not just on the rate decision, but actually on the language of the statement itself. Consumer sentiment is down at 48.2. That's lower than 2008, lower than COVID, even lower than the 2022 inflation panic. None of these things alone, right, settles the question, but they're all happening at the same time. It feels like a lot. Oh, Amara, it absolutely is a lot. And every single founder I know, they're reading those things in roughly that exact order you just laid out for us. We don't read each one for what it says alone. We really don't, honestly. We read them for the order they show up in, An 8-4 rate vote isn't unusual, right? That's just policymakers disagreeing on a parameter. But 3 regional bank presidents dissenting on the language of the statement, that's something totally different. That's the institution telling you, hey, the description of policy is now contested. Then, Powell signals he's leaving his chair but staying as governor. That's a structural posture against chair selection pressure, honestly. The rate path is no longer a planning anchor, so you just stop treating the December dot plot as information about December, and you start hedging. You price upward. It's a domino effect, truly.
Wow. Rate path is no longer a planning anchor? That's just a huge takeaway, Priya. So, what's the actual mechanism that's really generating this gap? You mentioned different optimization functions, but how does that practically play out when we look at the data itself?
Okay, so Amara, the mechanism that actually generates this whole gap, it's called update cadence asymmetry. So the Cleveland Fed nowcast, right? It ingests 3 things: Brent crude spot daily, retail gasoline weekly, and then, BLS CPI components when they print. It's a continuous update model, literally. Capital prices against it because the contract resolves on the BLS release. Simple as that. The University of Michigan survey, though, it updates only twice a month. It's just a slower signal measuring expectations, not the price level itself. Headlines anchor to the survey because the survey produces narrative. Sentiment up, sentiment down, easing, The nowcast, it just, produces a number. Right now, that number is 3.89% year over year. The contract won't move toward the headline because it knows which signal resolves it, period.
That makes so much sense, Priya. It's one is for understanding reality as it literally happens, and the other is just for telling a story, isn't it? But here's something nobody's really saying out loud about Powell, and it's kind of crucial. He didn't just announce he's stepping down. He announced he's stepping down while actually keeping his governor seat until the renovations investigation closes. That's not a graceful exit, right? That's like a very structural posture, which raises a question this episode hasn't quite answered yet. If the contract is right and the May print confirms persistence, and Wash inherits a committee with 3 regional bank presidents already refused easing bias language, what is the new chair actually able to do, you know?
Absolutely, Amara. That's just totally it. Capital is already pricing it, you know? That's part of why this whole gap exists, really. Founders are reading the exact same situation you just described. And the read is, the chair role is now like a truly constrained role. Wash, if confirmed, he walks in with Hammock, Kashkari, Logan, all on record refusing easing language. He walks in with Mirren on record dissenting in the other direction. And he walks in with Powell still on the board. Which means, you know, every internal vote has Powell's institutional memory right there in the room, as a check. The chair just can't push the dot plot below where the regional bank presidents are willing to vote, right? So the chair becomes a coordinator, not, a director. The data right now, Amara, it says persistence. So the path follows persistence, and the contract at 0.62, that's just the price of that follow the data world,
Wow, so it's not about what the chair wants to do, but what they're actually able to do. That's a total game changer, honestly. But for the household, right, reading the headline that says inflation expectations are easing, the actual decision they're being asked to make this week is whether to absorb the next price increase out of savings or whether to start deferring, kind of like a founder reads a runway. The numbers, they just stark, 52% of households without significant equity holdings, they cite high prices as a drag on their personal finances. And 40% of the top income bracket says the same. That 12-point gap there is the cost transmission running at full speed through the bottom 90% of the wealth distribution, while the top decile, which owns roughly 87% of individually held equities and watches the S&P at 7,300, registers the same pressure as just a manageable inconvenience. The household reading the easing expectations headline is being told things are getting better, while their wallet registers that they're just not. And the wallet is the faster updating signal in their lives, not the headline. It's a brutal reality, Priya.
And Amara, what's truly, truly brutal about that, what nobody on cable news will really say cleanly, is that the cost of being on the wrong side of this gap, it just compounds. It's not just a one-time thing like a hiccup. If you read the headline and you don't hedge, and the May print comes in hot on June 10th, you don't just lose a month, you lose the ability to actually plan the second half of the year based on the first half. Every household that built a 2026 budget around the survey's 4.5, they have to totally rebuild that budget mid-year. Every founder who told their board 2026 would be a recovery year, they have to walk that back in front of investors, which is never fun. The hedging behavior we've already started to see, founders who priced upward last quarter, the ones who deferred hires, the ones who renegotiated supplier contracts to lock prices, that just totally accelerates, And the gap between businesses that read the contract and businesses that read the headlines, it just widens into a survival sort by Q4. Capital will be fine, truly. The middle, though, it just gets cut in two. The half that read the gap and the half that didn't, unfortunately.
Wow, that's a really chilling thought, Priya. A survival sort. And the gap, it doesn't just sort businesses. It also sorts, the assumption everyone walked into 2026 with, that the rate path was like a planning anchor, that survey expectations were directionally telling the truth, that soft landing language actually meant something operationally. The gap is the data telling us that those assumptions were never truly anchors. They were just narratives, honestly. The price level was the only anchor the whole time, and we really, really need to understand that now. So here's where it all, lands for us. Tuesday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern, the Bureau of Labor Statistics releases April CPI. We have two very distinct paths here.
Yeah, exactly. A real fork in the road, right?
Okay, so the first path, Priya, it's what we're calling the capital lead path. That's where the print comes in at or above 0.4% month over month, totally consistent with the Cleveland Fed nowcast. The contract, it just climbs towards 0.70 plus. Then on June 10th, the May print comes in at or above 3.9 year over year. So CPI May 26 resolves yes. The FOMC June 16th to 17th dot plot, it shifts towards zero cuts in 2026. And the whole easing expectations narrative just dies on contact with the print, truly. Or there's the narrative-led path, a sustained Strait of Hormuz reopening. It lets gasoline retreat. The April print softens, the contract slides towards 0.50, the entry threshold opens at 0.55, the May print on June 10th comes in below 3.9, and the single 25 basis point cut path the March SEP previously registered, it holds. So it's really down to these two very, very distinct possibilities, isn't it?
Oh, Amara, it's a real showdown, you know? A real showdown.
Yeah, so watch the print on Tuesday, everyone. Watch that headline number year over year. Watch the core, ex-food and energy. Watch the energy services component. Watch the gasoline contribution. And then watch the contract just 30 seconds later. That reading at 8:31 a.m., that's the data telling you which side of their 22-point gap was right. And whichever side it lands on, here's what you walk out holding. If the contract resolves yes, capital was clearly reading the price level, and the headline was, it was reading a story. If it resolves no, the question then becomes whether the narrative was right by accident, base effects, tariff pass-through softer than expected, or whether capital was wrong about a mechanism we haven't named yet. Both outcomes, though, they leave you holding the same critical framework. The slow signal is a story. The fast signal is the price level, and the price level is the only one that pays, my friend.
Exactly, Amara. The only one that pays, It's just so important to distinguish what's actually happening versus just the narrative being spun.
Totally. So yeah, Tuesday at 8:30, watch the print, watch the contract 30 seconds after, and just ask yourself which set of decision makers you've been listening to, It really matters.
And that, my dear listeners, brings us to the close of another truly captivating episode. I truly hope today's deep dive into the market's subtle signals has offered you, a really fresh perspective on everything. Oh, Amara, it's just been such an intense discussion, hasn't it? Understanding these underlying mechanisms, it's absolutely crucial for navigating today's complex economic landscape, whether you're a founder or, just managing your household's finances. Absolutely, Priya. And if you found this conversation insightful, if it sparked a new thought, or even challenged an old one for you, please show us some love. Take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments below, share it with your network, and of course, subscribe to our channel to help us grow this incredible community we're building. Your engagement truly makes such a difference, Amara, helping us reach more people who absolutely need to hear these vital discussions. We just appreciate every single one of you tuning in, honestly. Indeed. Until next time, everyone, keep watching those prints, keep asking those hard questions, and always trust the data that pays. Farewell for now.